It's International Women's Day week, and I wanted to interview 3 of the most inspiring women I know. My sisters. I'm going to introduce you to them in just a moment. But if you are a woman in business, if you want to hear a raw, unfiltered conversation, you're going to love this chat with my sisters. Now, I have 3 sisters. I'm actually one of 5. My brother is also here, but I have 3 sisters. First is Beth. Beth is an absolute boss. She and her husband, they pastor a church. They also run a coffee roasting company and a cafe, and they have 4 kids. She has a crazy capacity, and she is just the most gracious person I know. Next, we have Shelley. Shelley is a leadership and HR expert. She has written books. She is famous on LinkedIn, apparently, and she's an absolute pro at all things leadership and feedback. She is a mum of 2, and her husband and her both live in Newcastle as well. And finally, we have my little sister, Millie. She is a singer-songwriter. She has a project called Millie Robertson. She gets millions of Spotify streams. She's super, super impressive. And she's just such an amazing songwriter and creative. Now, here's what you need to know about my sisters. We're all a creative bunch. And so we've all kind of built businesses. We're doing a lot of things. And so I thought it would be really cool to dive in and take you behind the scenes on what it would look like having coffee with me and my sisters. And I even have a surprise for you at the end of this episode. There is a sneak preview of something that we did in a past life. It involves folk music, dancing, and wrestling. So make sure you hang around for that. I've wanted to host this interview for so long, so I'm really honored that my sisters can join me in the studio today and we can dive in. I know you're gonna love this conversation. They are absolute badasses. They inspire me, they challenge me, and they are my best friends in the whole world. So let's dive in to my International Women's Day conversation with the Robertson sisters. I was thinking about International Women's Day and thought of you guys because you are my favorite women, and thought it'd be cool to just talk about really like what it's like being a woman, navigating life, navigating business, career, trying to do big things, but also trying to like just be and survive and look nice sometimes as well. Occasionally look nice, yeah. And so I was just like, let's just have coffee, chat, and really just dive into the issues.
Issues of life.
Women's issues. Let's dive into women's issues today. Now, I'm going to talk about menstruating. What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the postpartum bod.
Okay, good. What are you guys going to talk about?
Oh gosh, postnatal depression.
Yeah, let's go there.
We were going to talk about postnasal drip, which seems to be a Robertson trait.
We seem to have issues with that.
No, but let's not talk about any
of those issues. So the thing about us as sisters and us as siblings in general, our brothers here as well, helping us record, we've all landed in creative fields. You're a muso and you work in this really cool retail store. You run a coffee company with your husband and also run a church, and you're a crazy musician as well. You're doing your leadership, coaching, consulting, empire thing.
Empire.
I think you just call it empire.
We're actually going to go over empire.
Empire was what I was thinking. And so we've all kind of ended up in these spots where we've kind of, we're blazing our own trails. And so one thing that people do ask me when they see that we're all related, like, I don't know if you found this, even you posted on LinkedIn the other day and told people that we were sisters. And people were like, oh my goodness, that's so wild that you're related. It's weird. But the thing that people often say to me is like, oh my gosh, like what were your parents like? You guys are all so creative, and Nathan's the same. Like, what do you think it is that has made us all end up in these entrepreneurial, creative spaces?
Well, Dad is still really creative, hey? Like, he kind of exists in this other abstract space, I find. So I think that Mum and Dad I think they did really well. Like, obviously not perfect, and we can talk about some of that stuff, like the comparison stuff that can kind of creep in the family, but I think they did a really good job at just trying to help each kid find their thing, and find their mastery in that thing. So I think they did great with that, and tried not to box us too much.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cool that I was thinking, I'm like, how many of us actually went to university and got a degree? And you did, and I know that you did it later. I bailed on uni multiple times.
But I also did the most minimal uni degree. Like I remember I would go 1 hour a week. Yeah. I did the most minimal effort because it was communications, guys. I did a comms degree before social media existed. So good luck for me getting a job in that industry using my degree.
But it is kind of weird that like maybe we all have ADHD a little bit because, I don't know, I'm not putting it on you, but there's an element of like, we've all kind of done something creative. We haven't gone down a conventional path, which is kind of weird. And I think growing up, Dad being so musical, we grew up with music in our house. We grew up with creativity, and growing up in church too, we were always like doing skits and doing like dramas and like these performances and these things where we'd be in costumes that were ridiculous. And so like, it was very arty and creative. And
we thought that was normal. It's only when we got older that we realized that's actually not that normal. No. Like remember Warners Bay Public, Dad would come in and he would write the school musical for us, and they would full bump in a big PA, and like it was so crazy. And now as a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Dad did that. There's no way I'm doing that for my kids.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But also I think you get exposed to so many areas that you can develop skills in, like in public speaking, in music and in drama and all these things. We got to really dip our toes in so many different things and to experience like, oh, I actually kind of like doing this and maybe I want to pursue this for myself. But you get exposed to so much, and there's people who are there to help you develop those skills alongside the actual church experience, which I think is super cool.
One thing that I think is really cool about growing up in a big family, and if anyone's listening who has grown up in a big family, you'll know this, you have to find your personality. Like you have to find who you are to have a voice in a big family. And our family is really loud. Like everyone's got very strong opinions. And I think what that's done is it's helped us to find our voice probably earlier in life. And that's where I feel like one thing that I would say about each of us is we have had to build confidence really early in life and really find our authentic self early. And if I think about people and where they struggle in their work setting, often it comes back to that sense of not knowing yourself and therefore not being able to build that sense of confidence. Because if you don't know who you are, it's hard to have a sense of confidence in what you do. And I think that would be where I would see for each of us and each of in our family dynamic, confidence was something that was really evident all through our childhood. And certainly the thing that I reckon has taken us to be able to take those creative risks, because it's a risk to start your business. It's a risk to be an artist and do music and put yourself out there in a really vulnerable way. And if you don't know who you are, you can't do that. And I would say if anyone who's listening who goes, how do I unlock my next stage in my career, start by doing that deep discovery on who do you want to become. Yes. And that's the springboard to building confidence, which is what I would say is the theme in each of our lives. And that's certainly something that I think Mum and Dad did well to instill in us. But if you haven't had parents that do that, you got to find that.
And especially in a big family, you have to learn a certain tenacity to speak up. And if you have an opinion, I just remember always feeling like in our family, it was like, you can have an opinion, but you've got to be ready to back it up. You've got to be ready to cite your sources.
Because one of Dad's things was that he said it was, your opinion is wrong.
He used to always say that.
Dad would tell us our opinion is wrong,
which is wild. But you had to come, if you were going to, speak up about something, you had to be really ready to fight for it. Yes. And I think that is also a theme of having the confidence to speak up and being ready to back it up in whatever way that looks like. I think we all learned that in that big family dynamic.
Laura, because I reckon it's really interesting, the middle child syndrome and the squished, because Beth and I being the eldest, and there was actually a bit of an age gap between you and me, it was nearly 4 years. Tell us about the middle child thing, because also linked to you being the bridge between the younger two and the older two.
I think when I think about, why do I struggle so much with people pleasing? I think it is a little bit to do with being a middle child, because you're the piece, you want everyone to be get along and everyone to get along. So I think for me, being a middle child is this, I feel like I could kind of slip under the radar with certain things, so I could just do my thing, plug away and whatever. And I had the benefit of being the elder of you and Nathie, and so I kind of had a little bit of that responsibility thing of an eldest child. I got to be the boss sometimes. I got to do that. But actually, I remember Mum has this like core memory of when you were born. You were in a pram and we were out, and people would come over and be like, "Oh my goodness, little baby," and I'd be like, "My sister." I was like, "Don't touch her. She's my sister." So I feel like there's like this weird thing of you're protective, but you also want everyone to get along. So I don't feel like I had the forgotten child thing. I think if anything, I feel like I kind of I was like responsible and did the right things and wanted to do well. And
did you feel
all of
kind
those
of
things
malleable? Like you had to adapt to different dynamics?
Yeah, well, what's interesting now is like I'm trying to get a bit more contrarian, even in like my content and my marketing. I'm trying to be a bit more opinionated. And it's really not.
Luckily, you married a really
I married a very opinionated man, and I struggle a little bit with. I do have like views on things, but sometimes I struggle to like.
I have views.
I have views. But sometimes I do struggle to be like, this is what I think, and like I don't care what you think. I'm just going to do it, but like secretly I really do care what you think, and so I think that's been my thing at the moment is like figuring out how do I not care what people think so much.
I reckon that's a really good one to dig into though, because I would say I've been reading this book by Michael Gervais actually, and it's called The First Rule of Mastery. And the whole thing, and he works with professional athletes in the NFL and a whole range of sports in the US. And he says that the first rule of mastery is that you have to overcome the fear of people's opinions. And he calls it FOPO, so fear of other people's opinions.
Love that.
And I feel like what you're describing there is like every person has to encounter that in their work.
Yes.
Like you're encountering that all the time. That if I think about writing music is such a vulnerable endeavor. Like you're writing like some of the most like sketchy parts of your life. I feel like, and I'm just going to put it out there.
I'm going to share it with the world and then hope that people like it, because your success is based on people liking what you do.
But is it? Like that's the question. True. Like is you like yes. But
conventionally speaking,
my success is based on other people liking my work.
Yeah.
But if I think about this whole idea of the first rule of mastery, it's like if you want to master anything, you have to get over what people think. Yeah. But we are wired, like hardwired to care what other people think.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting too is that, and I feel like we've all heard the stat of like the woman looking at the job description of their dream job goes, oh, I meet 9 out of the 10 criteria, so I'm not going to apply. And the man goes, I meet 5 out of the 10, I'm going to apply.
I got this
It's like this, like, are you, like, sometimes I love working with men because they have this, like, and a lot of my mentors have been men, because they just have this thing of like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to figure that out.
Why wouldn't it work? And why wouldn't it work out for me?
I'm going to back myself. I'm going to trust myself. And we have this inner critic that is like, you are not good enough yet. Yes. And so don't even try. And so I feel like this like fear of what other people think. Sometimes I'm like, does a guy care that much about what people, like, I know there are plenty of guys who do care about what people think, but like, they just go for it. And I feel like there's this like thing that we just have to aggressively attack and go, I will not be the people pleaser. I will not be the person who cares so much about what people think that I do nothing, or that I never put myself out there because I'm terrified of looking stupid, of getting rejected, of someone telling me I'm not qualified or good enough or whatever it is. But I feel like that's a unique experience for us as women. Also, when you consider that women haven't necessarily been in the workforce, like when did women really start, quote unquote, working and having a career?
The 70s.
The 70s. That's not that long ago. And so, like, when we think about that, there are so many things that are hardwired into us, whether it's through culture, society, whatever, that we have to consciously not just kind of go, I'm going to gently push that away and do my little affirmations in the mirror and say, I am worthy. It's like, no, you have to attack it and you have to go, I'm not going to settle for that anymore, and I have to stop being a little bitch.
But the thing that I find interesting as well is there is this tension, and I can't speak to it fully because I'm not a mum, but I know that there, like we've talked about a lot, with the tension of being told that you can have it all and you can have a really fulfilling career and you can be a mum. There's always sort of a tension there, right, as mums who are also pursuing careers. And how do you guys balance that feeling of, I want to pursue all of my dreams, but I also want to be an involved parent?
Beth?
There's so much talk about this at the moment, which I think is really healthy. I think it's good that mums are realising now that it's okay that you can't do everything. Like, it's actually okay to sometimes choose the career and sometimes choose the family. Like, and I think it's the trust that your kids are going to be okay. I'm a big believer in the village supporting mums and dads. I think that's why we love church, because you have this beautiful community around you, and you can find it in so many spaces, but for us it was church growing up, which I think really supported us in that mum and dad, they did a great job, but they also had amazing people and families around them that really cared for us and spoke into our lives and kind of encouraged us and gave us opportunities. So I think I have a lot of trust in the village around me to help my kids, and I just think, this is my thoughts, and I think this has kind of come from mum. This might be a little old school, but I just remember when I had, my daughter's nearly 11, when I first had Riv, mum was like, if you do the work between the ages of 1 and 4, if you work really hard in that time, you'll actually find it easier as they grow, but you kind of got to do the work there. And I think, and I've hung on to that, and I've probably, not to say that you can't do adjustments along the way with your kids, but I think do the work at the start when it is really intense, those first few years, and you'll find parenting a joy. And they actually, it does shift as they get older, and we're finding, because we've got 4-year-old twins, so we're kind of in the trenches with them, but the older kids are amazing because they actually help. So I just think, everyone's got their different seasons, and not to box parenting too much, but I think let the village help you, and also your kids want to see you go for your stuff. Like, your kids want to see you really achieve and go hard for what you want. And I think that actually then encourages them, like you were saying about the confidence. Like, we could see our parents go for their dreams and pioneer and blaze the trail. So then it kind of opened up that opportunity for us, and we were like, wow, we could do that too. So I don't know, I think we're just going to take pressure off the mums having to be everything for everyone.
Yeah.
I kind of think that you can have it all rhetoric is flawed. And in anything in life, you are making choices. I don't feel like, when do we ever say to people, you can have everything? It's like, no, you can make choices about what you go after. And it really bothers me when we talk about, like, one thing that really pisses me off in work is work-life balance. I just think, what the heck is balance? I've never once had any balance in my whole career.
HR coach 101.
Balance is a stupid idea. But what I think we can have is we can have a blend of something that works for us. And I love, Mill, how you said tension. And I would describe the word, exactly what you said, of mum life and career life and building a business as tension. And not balance, zero balance, have absolutely none. But it is tension, and tension is painful. And that's what I think, like, this idea of mum guilt, I would reframe as more, it'd actually probably be more helpful if we called it mum shame. Like, this idea of, like, shaming parents. And it's, I don't know if it's I think it's probably externally and internally driven. Definitely. There's a social element of, like, having to be at every school drop-off and every school pick-up and every bloody assembly for the silliest things that are completely pointless. Like, I'm just like, what is that assembly for? You know? But it's less guilt, because guilt is actually helpful in some cases. And guilt for things that you feel like you've let someone down, that is actually a healthy emotion. But shame is when you feel like I'm not good enough. And it's like the is beration the right word? Where you're like, okay, as a mum, if I have this career that's thriving, like I know for me, the business that we've built is only 2.5 years old, and it just grew really fast. And then all of a sudden I was like in a different state every week, on a plane every single week, going somewhere like bloody Townsville all the time. And like random locations in the middle of nowhere, just regional. And I remember like, on this plane coming back from Townsville, and I get emotional thinking about this. Sam sent me this text, and it was so cute. He's like, oh, Bowie just said, when Mummy gets back, will the hole in my heart go away?
Oh, stop.
And I was like, I was on the plane and I was sitting there, and like we hadn't taken off yet. I just read the text on my phone, and I put my glasses on. I wish I had glasses right now. I put my glasses on inside the plane, which is so weird. And I face out the window. Luckily I was on a window seat. And I just cried. And I was like, I'm building this business and I feel like it's really succeeding. And then I'm in the tension of, I feel like I'm letting my family down. And my little boy who's like, when Mummy comes home, will the hole in my heart go away? And I was like, how do I do this? And I got home, I said to Sam that my husband's sold his trade business to be a stay-at-home dad. And what he has done for our family, I think, actually, if we want more women to be in the boardroom, if we want more women to be in CEO roles, we have to have more dads be accepted in the school spaces and have more dads be okay to be a stay-at-home and thrive. And for him, his journey has been full of hurdles because he's had to deal with the shame of social expectations on men that say men have to be the main income earner or men have to have purpose only from their work. I'm like, no, actually, dads being in that zone is what also enables women, for me in our family scenario, to build my business and to do it without shame. And I just want to like say to anyone who's listening who has a family situation like this, to be okay with shrugging off the shame. And yeah, it's painful, but like, you know, you just got to put the glasses on, look out the window and have the tears and the snot.
Tears and the snot.
It's a terrible combination.
But we were talking about this the other day. You were saying something about guilt being different to shame.
Yes. I watched this video of this lady. She's actually a parent coach, but she talked about how what you were saying is guilt can be a helpful feeling. She was saying guilt is usually a byproduct of us acting outside of our values. So she used an example of if a barista gets your coffee order wrong and you yell at them, if that's not something that is within your values, you might feel guilt about that because that's not something that is aligned with your values. And the guilt of that is actually a helpful tool to help you correct and sort of reflect on the behaviour that you might have acted out of that wasn't aligned. But yeah, the shame is, I feel like it is generally an external feeling where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something that is right for me or something, and I'm feeling this pressure or this feeling that doesn't feel like it's coming from me.
Yeah,
within. Yeah. And I think guilt is a helpful indicator, but I think that's a really important distinction to talk about. The difference between guilt and shame. It's because shame's a really powerful motivator and it's super unhelpful.
Absolutely.
We knew that would, I saw it on the list of questions.
We just had to get it out of the way. It's like a Band-Aid.
There'd be tears.
You're both such incredible mums, and I think Mill and I look at you both and we're like, how do they do it? And you also both do it differently. And I love that you both do it differently and you both do it your way. And I think that's really empowering for us to see, well, when we want to have kids, we can do it our way. And because I think when I think about having kids, sometimes I do think, oh my goodness, am I too selfish for this? Like, I sometimes think, oh my gosh, I'm quite independent. I have my little life and I like it. And so I think being able to see, okay, there is a way that I can do it that will be, I can find my groove with it, and also it will be enjoyable, because sometimes I look at it and I'm like, is this fun?
Is this what you guys call fun? But I talked to Sam about this, because like earlier in the year we had this funny thing where we just got a little bit, I don't know how deep, how open we're going, but like between, because you and I we do things differently, and Sam's definitely more involved in the home than my husband Chris. And so Sam and I were talking about this, and I was like, I think in the big scheme of things, our kids are all going to end up, they're going to be fine. Like, they're actually going to be okay. Yes. But I think, like, we do have that internal talk, and sometimes it's subconscious. Like, am I messing my kid up? Is my kid not going to thrive in life? Am I giving my kids all the opportunities that maybe we got as kids, or that are at my fingertips to give them? Am I working hard enough for my kids? Like, all these things that the internal talk. But when I spoke to Sam, I was like,
oh my gosh, that's a lot of feelings.
I'm glad we're having this chat so I can verbalise my thoughts. But Sam and I were just standing at your house and watching the twins and Bowie just tackle each other on the grass, and we were just like, they're going to be okay. Yeah. Even though they have a slightly different way of, we all have different ways of doing it, but I really believe they're going to be fine.
Of course. Yes. There's one really good thing that's helped me, anyone who wants to have kids who hasn't yet, I always think about the Aldi slogan. Do you know what the Aldi slogan is?
Yes, I do.
Does. What is it?
Good, different.
Good different. The Aldi slogan is good, different. And I think when it comes to building your career, building a business and having a family, my little self-talk now on parenting is good, different.
Yeah,
it looks different to you,
that.
Beth. It's going to look different to how you do it.
Yeah.
It's going to look really different to how you do it because you're a free spirit. No.
Can I just, as an aside, can I share the story that happened the other day? So it's so funny. I got a tiny, tiny glimpse into what life might be like as a parent. I was at Mum and Dad's house, and the twins were there, and they had been doing lots of drawing, and they were eating lots of snacks, and there's food scraps all around. And the kids leave, and I'm helping Mum tidy up.
It's gross.
What? Oh no, I'm really nervous. Oh, I can only imagine what happened.
Oh my God.
So I'm picking up all these little food scraps, and I see this food scrap that I think looks like a little piece.
No, stop.
Yes, real.
No, it's great. So I see this little food scrap that looks like a little piece of chewed up chocolate or something, and so I pick it up.
Oh,
I pick it up, and then I say to Dad, this looks like a little piece of poo. And I'm kind of laughing, and I'm walking into the bin, and all of a sudden I just get a smell. I'm holding it in my fingers.
Between the thumb and forefinger.
Like this, everybody. And then I look at Dad and I say, this is a piece of poo. Stop.
And so then we're sitting out in the car. Mum's loading all the washing and stuff, because she's been doing my washing and stuff. We're loading all the kids in the car and the washing and everything. And then Mill comes running out, and she's running out. She's not holding them.
I have washed my hands about 20 times.
She's still in her fingers like this. And she runs out to the car, and she's like, excuse me. I just picked up something that I thought was food, but it was actually poo. Who of you did this? Which shit is one?
Whose shit is this? Whose shit has been in my fingers? That is so funny. It was so funny. And Abel thought it was, how old is Abel? 9. He thought it was the funniest thing. I was trying not to laugh, but it was really funny. And then I locked eyes with Abel, and he's like, and then I start giggling, and then he's cracking up and crying of laughter. And
they laughed all the way home. Even Gordy, whose poo it was.
Oh my gosh.
We actually think it might have been Sully.
Oh,
anyway,
stop. This is
it was very funny. And that's absolutely wild.
Of course it happened to you.
I know.
Of all of the aunties.
I feel like it would happen to me. And it did make me think.
What worries me most about that story is how long it took you to cotton on. Like, I'm just like, mate.
That's a poo.
How
For
did you
sure,
not
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
wild.
I'll know for next time.
I did not know how to
How do we move on from that?
segue that.
Yeah, let's go
To a commercial. We don't know how it goes. Okay, so that's wild.
So what's been your biggest challenge? Where do we go from here?
What's happening in
How
your
do we
life?
pivot?
Okay, I do have a question. What's been something that you have had to overcome recently? Whether it's like a mindset or a fear, belief, or something that you've had to go, I got to get over that.
I would love to know if you could lead the way with that.
Okay, I can lead the way. I saw this video of Emma Greed, who's from the CEO of Skims. She's amazing. She's an absolute boss. And she talked about, like, before she'd kind of started working with these, like, multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar brands, she was like, I had to practice being a baller. And she, like, was saying, like, I wasn't a baller yet. So I just had to practice it. And it wasn't like fake it till you make it. It was like, no, I'm just going to practice it. I'm just going to, it's like a skill and I'm going to learn it and I'm going to see how I carry myself and how I can be more confident, how I can advocate for myself, how I can negotiate, how I can lead, all of these things that, you know, we think are sometimes like innate. Oh, you're really good because you're really clear and you're honest and direct. That's innate to you. But it's like, well, what would it look like if I could learn those skills of whatever? And I look at my husband and I'm like, he's so good at negotiating and he just gets what he wants because he just is like totally fine with no. Like if people say no, he's totally fine with that. He often gets people to say yes because I don't know how he does it. He figures out how to negotiate. And so I think for me, it's like stepping into this like next level has required me to go, okay, how do I practice being a baller? I'm not there yet, but how do I kind of practice it and how do I try it on and it's not being inauthentic because everything in me is like, I don't want to be that fake, like trying to make myself sound really good. I want to be me, but how do I just become a more confident me? And like even yesterday I was at this networking event. And
Wow,
like,
how bad is networking?
networking sucks. Networking events. This was actually a really good networking event, but I was really anxious.
Turn.
It's yes. Anyway, I arrived strategically late. I walked in and the guy was like, "You would need champagne," and I was like, "Yes, I do." Anyway, people kept asking me like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "I'm from Darlinghurst." Like, I don't know. I just felt like that was a normal answer to the question. I was like, "I live in Darlinghurst," and they were like, "Well, no. I mean, like, they kind of like." Tilted their head and like laughed at me a little bit. They were like, no, I mean like, which business are you from? And I was like, oh, I am my business.
I am the business.
I was like, I'm Laura Higgins. It's me. Hello. And so like, I just had this moment of like, okay, I've got to get better at saying who I am and what I do. And like, that's that practice thing of, okay, next time I'm going to figure out how to answer that question way better.
So what would you say now if you were there going back today? What would you say?
If they say, where are you from?
Well, that's a weird question. I feel like where are you from is a weird
Darlinghurst
question.
is a fine answer.
Yeah, they were like,
answer.
I'm not asking what suburb you're from. I'm like, well, be more specific.
But I think a lot of people get asked the question, like, let's reframe the question to a better one.
Yeah.
What do you do? What would you say? Because actually it would be helpful for all people to know,
Well,
how to answer that question.
So what I currently say is not great. So I don't have another answer that's better. What I say currently is I help creatives to figure out the business side of their thing because most creatives suck at business. And that's what I do. So that's kind of how I say it at the moment. But my coach said to me, he was like, you know what you need to say? You need to say to them, you know, you've heard of starving artists before? I help the starving artists become crazy rich and successful.
I love that.
I was like, okay, I might try that on and see how that sounds. I don't know.
And also the cool thing about that is it's actually not about you.
Yeah.
Because I think where we go wrong is like we think it's, when we're answering the what do you do question, we think it's about me.
Yes.
Whereas everything in that is about who you're helping.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's when you're trying to be I'm very much like, and I need to work on this, but I'm very much, and I feel like maybe you're the same. Someone asks me a question and I'm like wanting to ping pong it straight back to them straight away. I don't want to talk about, I'm like, I don't want to, how can I get back to you straight away? And so I'm learning to be a bit better at going, I do this and the reason I do it is because of this. I'm a creative. I sucked at business and I really struggled and I felt really lonely in business because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have people around me. I had to figure it out on my own. And I want to help creatives not have to do that.
And what you do is worthy of that conversation. Like you can actually occupy that space because of the help that you bring to those creatives.
Yes.
So you don't need to deflect it.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't normally swear, but my business coach, he came up with this thing and he calls it instant badass. And he's like, if you want to feel like an instant badass, it's called first name, fucking last name.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what it looks like is you say, I'm Laura fucking Higgins.
I love that.
And he's like, instantly you feel like a badass, don't you? And so it's like when you do that, you like go, okay, I'm good. Like before a presentation or whatever, I'm like, I'm Laura fucking Higgins. And it's like, I don't know, there's something about it that you go, okay.
Baller.
I love
It's that practicing.
I think of that Ted Lasso moment where what does she do? She occupies the space. You guys ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yes. I love Ted Lasso.
What was the chick's name? She's so cool. She's really tall.
She's Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Rebecca something.
She's amazing, but before she goes like this, and she gets really big. She gets really big because she was fully surrounded by men, and she's like, how do I show up as a woman in this space with all these footballers? And so she would do like this big tiger thing, and I think about that. I'm like, that's good.
That's good. It's
Occupy.
And I always do this because it's like this stance of like
Making yourself bigger.
Yeah.
I think any time like I go on to do like a workshop, or we just did a big event yesterday and there was like 300 people there, and I was getting up to do this like workshop session with them all, and something that I say to myself before I get on stage is like, I own this space.
So good.
And I like tell myself, I'm like, I know. And I actually do, I think I deeply know when I get up there, I own this space.
Yeah.
And
For this time I've been given, this is my space.
and I own it. And I know, and I walk in confidence. It's not actually about me. It's like, I own this space to serve these people.
Wow.
And so it's like the gearing towards service, but it's like the message that I tell myself, and I think going back to your question, Laura, of like what's a big challenge you've had to navigate? For me, I would say a big challenge has been my self-talk. And when you think about like catching your self-talk and noticing it, and then starting to retrain how you talk to yourself, like the Laura fucking Higgins, or the I own this space for these people to serve them. Yeah. However you do that, like it actually starts by noticing. And a lot of people, I don't think, actually notice their self-talk. So they don't notice, what am I telling myself about myself constantly in my head? And if you don't catch it, then you can't actually reframe it. But I reckon you need to come up with your own line. What are my own one-liners? Like, I don't know, do you have stuff before you go out and do a show?
No, I need that. I mean, I have a couple of pump-up songs.
What are they?
Oh, so a great one for me is What Can I Do If the Fire Goes Out by Danny Williams. There's something about that that I just like.
Come on.
Like, and, you know, there's something about, and my music's very reflective, but there's something about that. It's so loud and brazen and crazy that it just kind of gets me in my body. Another good one is Starburster by Fontaines. There's something about it that just gets me moving. And I think it's good to get in your body, but I would love to have something that gets me in.
Mantra.
But I just listened to this podcast with like Talk Easy. This guy, he interviews like actors and musicians and stuff. And he interviews Ethan Hawke, and Ethan Hawke shares this actor's vow that someone created, and he does it before he gets on stage or in front of the camera. And it's just about honouring the creativity. And there's something really, I can't remember it like off the top of my head now, but I remember listening to that and thinking, that's such a beautiful way to get into this. I am here to create, and I'm here to share the creativity that I have, and this is going to benefit the world because it's
That's good
really
because
cool.
it kind of reorients the whole conversation in your head. Like, is it about me or is it actually about the creative space I occupy? Or, you know, it's a bigger picture.
Yeah. And I think particularly when I'm playing solo, it really can feel quite vulnerable, and because people are just watching you, and it can feel really, especially because my music is so vulnerable and raw, I think it can feel like it really is just about me. But, you know, I would love to get into the habit more of making it more like this music is actually here to help people and help people process big feelings and experiences that they're like, oh, I've never heard someone put that into words. Or it's so nice to, I think the most important music in my life has been something that's put into words, something that I've never been able to explain, or like, you know, kind of is this consolation through whatever experience you're going through. So.
You also, like, your presence on stage is so magnetic, and you're just having fun, and you're
just happy.
You're happy, and I think that's really, like, when someone's comfortable in their own skin, people lean into that, and I feel like you totally do that.
Your songs are sad, but you're happy.
Your songs are mighty sad.
We're talking about tension.
Tension, indeed.
It is really funny because I have learned that, you know, we're all so multifaceted that my music is really just leaning into one facet of that deep thinker and all the big feelings, and but it's funny because I don't actually often present that way. But
You're quite silly.
I'm quite silly. But it's funny, like in the internal monologue underneath it all is quite sad.
Sad white girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also wonder, like, would comedians can often be quite sad because they have this outlook and they're funny and they have this way of seeing the world that would also be quite big to always be taking in that amount of information and connecting things that other people wouldn't connect.
Making connections.
Except for Jerry Seinfeld, he doesn't seem sad. He seems grumpy sometimes.
He does seem grumpy.
I like him. I think he's good. You said something, and I remember, I don't know when it was, you had a phrase that was, where I go, I belong. And I never forgot when you said that because it felt really...
That's so wise.
It was very wise. It was very wise for you, actually. No, it was very wise. I thought that was such a cool take.
Well, like you say, I own this space. I think it's cool. Like, I think we've got to show up. When we do show up to stuff, I'm meant to be here.
Yes.
Unless someone says, you're actually not meant to be here. Let me escort you out of the building.
You just said, where I go, I belong. And you're like, it's my damn will be here. I own this space.
So, like, I think the example for me is like, and I don't know, it's probably a universal thing, not just for women, but like when you see your friends hanging out on socials without you, sometimes you go to the yacht club and you don't invite me. I know that you would be quite happy if I showed up there.
I invited myself to the yacht club the other night.
That's true. You did. But like, I just know that they're not intentionally excluding me. Where I go, I belong. Yeah. If I want to show up there without being invited, I can. I don't know. It's a weird thing in my head. It sounded better in my brain.
And it's good.
It's almost that sense of, and this is something you do really well, like, you're very inclusive as a person. And so if you have an inclusive mindset, you are more likely to think you belong places because you're like, I'm extending it. Beth, for those who don't know Beth, and me and Beth are very different because we're close in age. I'm really quite introverted, and Shell has a close circle of friends.
I'm quite tight.
And I do not like to let people
Does not like people.
And like any true HR person, we're like, we don't like the people. Yeah. But one thing that Beth does really well is like she'll have an open invite to pretty much anything. So Shelley, I'll invite Shelley to something and she's like, who's coming? That's her first question. Yeah, that is my first question. And so I think but to say that point around you're inclusive and therefore you're like, actually, I'm inclusive. I extend that, and I also expect to feel I belong. And you kind of walk in that mindset. Whereas me, like if I flip it, I'm quite exclusive in what I do. I'm quite exclusive, I think is what I meant to say, in terms of I won't
extend that group. And then when I get nervous, and I get quite anxious before big social events, and I'll be really hyper analysing, how do I show up in this environment?
Yes,
like the networking thing, for example. But I love that mindset that you have of like, I actually belong here. And one of the things that you do so well, Beth, is like, because you're so deeply others oriented, you're actually nodding your head. You're not thinking about you in those environments. You're thinking about others, which is part of your gift. And I've learned heaps from that, because I'm like, if I go to an event, a networking event, and I actually am others focused, I will feel I belong here. But if I'm in my head and all I'm thinking about is how I look, how I'm viewed, how other people see me, then I actually don't get the benefit of that event, and I don't feel like I belong.
Totally. What was interesting about this networking event is that every person I spoke to was like, I hate these things. But they were like, I'm having a really good time. And so everyone was having a really good time, but they were like, it took a lot for me to get here. So I think it's like fascinating to kind of think, you are a rare unicorn in that you just kind of show up and you don't have these neuroses that I feel like, I don't know if you have them, but like,
no,
I know.
absolutely do.
Oh, you're looking at me.
I know for sure she does.
And don't you think, like, I would way prefer, like, if I think about my kids, like, I would way prefer for them to not be second guessing themselves in these situations. Like, way better to have someone be like, actually, this is not the room for you, than to be like, am I meant to be here? And constantly second guessing. Like, and I think that sometimes you get that rejection, like self-fulfilling prophecy, where it becomes people end up struggling to be with you because you're always second guessing, is this the right group for me? Should I be here with these people? Are these people too good for me? Like, I want my daughter to show up just confidently.
Yeah.
And if she needs to be ushered into the next room, that's fine.
I love that.
It's that thing of like, Lola, who works with us, she says shy people miss out. And I think it's that thing of going, when we hold back and lean out because we're nervous, we actually miss out. And the other people that we want to impact and connect with, they miss out too. Yeah. And I found myself getting a bit like, oh, other people find themselves, I think in my head, this is weird, but I think in my head I had this belief that there's a cool club in any area.
Oh, yeah.
Every area, there's a cool club, and I am just outside.
Standing in the wind.
At the window, like I go. Yeah. And so I've had to go, no, there is no cool club. And I just had to push in, and it's like, that's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
I think it's like this waiting for permission to be part of this non-existent cool club. It's like this weird thing.
You think, I'm just thinking out loud about this, and just hearing what you described of like being ushered out rather than feeling like you need to be invited in.
Yes.
And then you just saying that then about the cool club. I wonder if as women, we feel like there are doors that we have to open that are closed, that actually there is no door. Is it like sometimes we and I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud for myself, but I'm relating to that thing of like, oh, I'm not going to reach out to that person because if they want something, they'll actually ask me or invite me. Yeah. And instead going, I'm just going to step in and assume the door is open and just actually step into that space rather than think, oh, it's a closed door and I'm not going to even knock. I'm actually just going to assume it's closed, and if it happens to open for me, great.
But do you think it's because probably historically the doors were closed?
Yeah, well, that's probably a really good call out. Maybe.
I also think there's we have had to jump through more hoops in a way. I also think for me, this is not to make it therapy-ish, but I think there must be something when I was little where I felt like I was excluded from the cool club, and that thing of that rejection thing comes in where you're like, oh, I don't want to feel like that again, so I'm not going to push in. Whereas I look at someone like Nathan, he's the same as you. He just assumes he's invited. He assumes everyone wants to hang out with him all the time. He he asks for stuff. He's just so
not anxiety.
Yeah, and not afraid of rejection or anything. So I think it's that fear of rejection, fear of oh, what if I get excluded? And what if I'm not cool enough?
I'm not cool enough. I just wanted to say, you've done so good at creating the cool club, with what you're doing in your business, and you're so inclusive. And so whatever that experience was, maybe it was a subconscious thing from being the squished middle child. You've totally overcome that, Law, and we're so proud of you. Like what you've created, the business, and not just the business, but the community of people that you've created where you're so open and welcoming. And I don't know, you're in the cool club now, girl. You've got this. So we're so proud of you, Law.
Thank you. Now, we have our brother here, and I wanted to do something, I wanted to show, because for anyone watching this, this is something that we've probably not watched in ages.
Oh, no.
But we were in a family band, guys.
Oh, no.
And so
we just had lots of hair.
We had lots of hair, so I'm just going to put this on, and then Nathan's just going to ask some final rapid fire questions about band.
Oh, my gosh. Is that you, Shell?
No, that's Law.
I had brown
Oh, you
hair.
have brown hair then.
I know.
Oh, my God. What is this?
We're doing a routine.
I cannot. They had so much hair.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Law, you look good as a Freeman.
Will, your hair is so long.
So long.
Who choreographed this?
I think you did now. This is all you, Beth.
Oh, this is fun. Oh my gosh, Shelley! I love Sam had hair.
Oh my gosh, it was so much hair.
10 out of 10.
Now, Nathan's coming in and he's doing rogue, quick, final, rapid fire questions. This is our brother, and I felt like it was important for him to be here.
Welcome.
Hello, it's all the Sims. Come,
What's your
My
birth?
therapy.
What's your birth order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 of 5, baby.
5 of 5.
About 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, guys.
Nice.
Truly. Okay, cool. So here's how this is going to go. We're doing rapid fire. It's got to be quick. We just got to go gut instinct.
Quick.
Question 1, who started the band versus who actually takes the credit?
I thought Bruce started the band.
Yeah, my dad did start.
Dad takes credit, and he might have started it.
I remember you
Beth-
gathering us for a meeting.
Because I'm the eldest child, I do what he wants.
You're
very compliant.
You're dutiful.
Yes.
Dutiful daughter.
Okay, so we're saying it's Dad / Beth.
Okay, so 1 point to Beth.
All right.
What was the peak moment of band fame?
South by Southwest.
Just opening Groove in the Moo at Maitland.
That was fun.
12 p.m. when no one's there.
Classic.
It was actually 11 a.m.
Early start. Crack of dawn.
They hadn't even started pre-drinking. Question 3, worst band fight or sibling meltdown?
Oh, yeah, we know that one.
In Nashville.
Mill and me.
I don't remember.
You remember in
in the
Nashville?
Oh, yeah,
And
we were in
Mill
the van.
walked out of the van,
Yeah.
two of us, blows up, mainly blows up at me when it was the whole group. I remember that. I was
You were
really,
the ringleader.
I was really pissed off about that. Still
I
am.
wrote a song about that one, just so you know. Absolutely.
She wrote a song about when I didn't pick her up one time. And it was, to be fair to Mill, Uber didn't really exist then.
Uber didn't.
And I probably should.
And were you asleep?
I was asleep. I was
It
asleep.
was only 8 p.m.
No, it was not. It was not 8
Because
p.m.
it was a Sunday night, I remember.
No, Mill.
Hey, rapid
No.
fire,
Okay,
babe.
sorry, continue.
Yep.
Okay.
A reunion tour, would it ever happen?
Absolutely not.
Shelley left the band.
Shell left the band.
Oh yeah, I was the only person who had a full-time job.
Yeah, none of us had
Actually, a
anything else
career.
going
No
on.
one else was doing anything.
We were starving artists, yeah.
Okay, who still thinks they should have been the lead singer?
Okay, for context, our dad told me I wanted to get out of the band as quickly as possible, and Dad told me that I wanted to be the lead singer over Beth, and everyone in the band knew Shelley is trying to get out of this band. She does not want to be here, and then Dad thinks I want to be the lead singer.
Dad misread the room.
I get a sense.
What was he doing?
Lead singer energy.
Lead singer energy, and I'm like, actually, I'm trying to leave.
Okay, who was the most dramatic out of everyone in the band?
Mill.
Yep.
I'll claim it. Yeah.
I've got a question. Who was the biggest diva? Laura. Laura always wanted to have a green room everywhere. We were at a pub. We were at a little local pub in like Tamworth. She's like, "Where's the green room?"
And the pub guy's like, what's the green room?
I wanted things to be nice.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Or the writer?
Okay.
How much did it cost us per year to be in the band?
Yeah. That's a good
Individually,
question.
what was the individual cost?
I know what we made net at the end of it?
What was it? $750.
$750. I think
We probably put in about 40 grand.
Yeah, there was the actual financial cost, but there was the emotional cost.
was way higher.
It was we travelled with River would have been like 15 months or something.
We had 2 kids under 2.
That was crazy.
Abel was a newborn.
Travelling around the
band
US.
did not survive that. All right, back to you.
I think, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got which sister was most likely to forget the lyrics?
Shell, she's never there.
I would come into the band in my corporate attire because I was like working HR gig. I always had the pencil skirt, and you guys are all folk people like hippies, and I'd be like, I've just worked a really long day in my pencil skirt and my heels, people.
If we were to do the Soolies again, here's my vision for it. Nathie would play bass.
Oh, yes.
Nath Higgins would play drums.
Whoa.
Sam would what?
Sam would sing.
Sam would play the banjo and sing.
And who should have actually been in the band the whole time?
I know. Well, you were
I was
only
but
13.
a child, yeah.
You were 13. Mill was 15. She was too young.
I was too young. Yeah.
What did you play? A tambourine and a
Whose
song?
boobs came out the most?
It did happen quite a bit.
And that's happened outside of the band too. Just in my general life, it happens semi-regularly.
Boobs slip up back in.
Even right
It
now.
might have happened
Wouldn't
today.
be International Women's Day without, just a
Without a
boob
nip
slip.
slip.
A little nip slip. And on that, we close.
Beautiful.
Thank you. You girls inspire me so much, so thanks for being here.
We love you, Lala.
You guys.